Hey guys, welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's podcast is sponsored by MedRay Laser and Technology. Today we're talking about the power of purpose and meaning when getting started in your day.
Let's rock and
Maddie,
roll.
what's up, kid?
Not much. Good to be back on with you. So tell the listeners how you start your day. You know, you're all about rituals, routines, but what is your main purpose? Getting up, prepping for the day, and winning the day, ultimately.
You know, it's a great question. And the one thing that I've pulled from a lot of ridiculously successful business entrepreneurs that use their podcasts to broadcast what they're doing, much like as I'm in the infancy stage, we are getting it out there. But the bottom line is I've always been an execution expert, is I make sure the first thing I do when I wake up is not coffee anymore, but I'll knock down a liter of water. I love one of these clinical nutritionists, actually pharmacists, that's all over Instagram. And he's a big, salt water guy. So I like my LMNT in the morning. I take down a liter, and traditionally right after that, I try to get some cold air, or at least get out there, let dogs out, and, take a walk around the pool, the yard, and just, get 5 to 10 deep breaths in, and just, 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, we're talking about get ready to engage on what's going on and be organized. Because the biggest thing and we were talking about this before we got on the show today, was if I get sped up because I'm already supercharged, I feel like everything I do is a just miss. Like I just miss executing that. I just miss doing this.
And it'll be that way all day long.
All day long. And we've been seeing it recently by just being off, by losing a wingman that we're obviously replacing in the next few days. But when my morning starts that way, I'm on point. So that's how I first wake up. From there, traditionally, I get my water in, and Pulse Pemf, those are my guys, Patrick and that whole crew down there, Stephanie Luttrell, they're amazing. And I'm on my Pulse Pemf or my Pemf unit, which is pulse electromagnetic field therapy, for anywhere from 45 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on how much time I have on the day. Tuesdays and Thursdays are performance days first, work after.
Right.
So I tend to do a little bit more Pemf time on those days. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I try to do 45 minutes to 60 minutes. So that 4:30 to 5:30 or 4:45 to 5:45 sweet spot nails it.
Right.
What we talk about to the minute, the first 15 minutes, I try to, and I've been up for probably about 15 minutes, I journal. Okay. And I basically write out any emotions that I may have woke up thinking about, or anything that just didn't sit right with me, to get it out of my head, so that way I can make room for what needs to happen, what I want to happen, and where I believe I need to transcend and go in my day and take the team with me, so that's a big one. The second 15 minutes, I get into usually a short podcast, and I love Bijos for that, and Alex and Hermosi. And I feel like they do a good job when they go solo. They give quick power bites.
Right.
And I feel like that's fuel for excellence. And then from there, what I usually do is get into a book while I'm, you see it, obviously I put it out there on the gram, but I'm on my iPad, and I am organizing everything from the breakdown of how the morning should go, patient care, coaching, social media posts, everything that needs to hit hit in every way. And when it's organized and I'm communicating, I feel like the day just flows.
Yeah.
It's a natural energy.
And it starts at 5 a.m. with our text back and forth. We know what patients in every room, what they're getting, what their time is, to where you show up, you know where to go right away. And to me, that's what's called winning the morning, and ultimately winning the day.
Absolutely. And the one thing, as we're training new staff right now, we treat in a manner that we educate patients, and it's elective care. They're paying for it. And much like going to the block or Cousins or fine dining, where you're going to pay for something, we want to make sure the service and the results are there. And I definitely see the value, because I know personally how well I do, or when I break down, what happens, because I'm getting away from those disciplines. And the one thing, and I always express to you as somebody that spends a lot of time with me, is the devil's in the details, and the results that happen from nailing those little details are so unbelievably important, because at the end of the day, you never want a patient to say, and I have a great example of this, to say, hey, it didn't work. And the one scenario was, and we've all been there, whether it's sports, you train so hard and you struck out, or, you everything was right. It was a great pass, kick to the corner, you square up, you shoot, and you miss, rims out, right? I had a patient come in, you and I worked him up, and it was quite unique because I was like, wow, what are the statistical odds that we treat all 4 regions? And this is anything in life.
Yeah.
And we win at all 4 spots, right? That's like when we were saying that, Johnny in practice going for the cycle or something like that, in a live at bat competition. Doing even practice is amazing. Doing a game is, is legendary.
It's different.
And with that being said, I was like, let me think about this. And it was a great day. We came into that day. I was organized. It was a purposeful, meaningful morning. I knew those patients on there, how we set up and how we prepare. We talked about, we talked through the whole workup. And the one thing, and I remember he was funny because they sought us out. And then it was a little bit of a sticker shock because it was pretty labor intensive.
Yeah.
And I expressed to him that there's a good chance as I walk through and take inventory of each spot and how he's healing, that it would probably be likely that 75% would have an excellent outcome and there'd be something that'd be lingering. And it was exactly played out that way.
Yep.
And I felt bad because I thankfully he wasn't like a superstitious person, because he'd have probably said, I jinxed him. But, I would have loved to be like, again, having that great game where everything's falling or, everything you're swinging at a double off the fence, was just that way. And when we got to the final visit, and really I knew the importance of that, started on the 6th or 7th visit. And I believe there was a vacation, came back, and his benchmark or bench line at that point was very good around the 8th visit, or again, at that point, 75% through his care plan. I believe his feet were at 70, 80%.
Yeah, about 80%.
Yeah. We would discharge for that, traditionally saying, hey, follow this program, you should be good. And then I believe the right elbow was coming along, and then the left elbow was lingering, but the right elbow was doing, significantly better. And went away, came back. And it was funny because, vacations are different beds, you're walking more, you're relaxing, you're not sitting at your workstation, whatever. And when you change habits, you get a set of new aches. And he came back frustrated, in pain. Everything was terrible. Nothing worked. And, obviously when you're taking detailed notes, and I don't care what type of business you do in life, it's walk through the steps, walk them back through the 75% point.
This is where you were. This is where you were before you left. Now we're back here.
And, when that happens, I think there was some frustration, and I took a step back, and I stick to my guns with regards to saying, hey, you know what? I think that if it was one of those days where I was rushed and really felt not so much panic is a word I'd use, but, just distress because we're running around, we're not organized.
Right.
We were so well planned out, and we had thought about this. And because literally before he'd become a patient and he was in the consultation, we expressed that this probably would happen.
Right.
Bringing him all the way back to that and being crystal clear showed him that, he had said, well, I don't find a value. And then I kind of read him through the notes, and he apologized. And he was like, wow, your notes are very detailed. At first I was frustrated, and rightfully so. I'd be frustrated too. But when we look at it, if 75% of the areas, plural, worked on are 70 or 80% that you've been struggling for a year, I'd say that's a win. And then we kind of forecasted and planned. And I never want to be salesy or sticky, Rob Gill taught me those terms. And, he spends a huge amount of time studying, elite million billionaire salespeople. And I just, I told the patient, I said, hey, you know what? Let's get a treatment in. We went through our corrective therapeutic and neuromuscular education routine, as well as the full treatment of the core 4. And I said, come in on Monday.
Yeah.
And
He was all about it.
Consultation, 7:30, go through, we'll review everything, see how you feel. Walking through the door, he's like, busy all weekend, my feet are 100%. Everything feels pretty good. I'm pretty darn happy. My elbow's still lingering. And I said, hey, listen, today's not a TLC day. Today's a work day, right? And we biked. We did the upper body bike, the lower body bike. I had him walking backwards on the treadmill and a series of corrective exercises. And this isn't about leadership.
Yeah.
All right. And this is I should say, this isn't about how to treat a patient. This is how to prove your point. Because when he went through and he realized, wow, I can't believe how organized you are with my routine. I said, it's just like how I get up in the morning.
Yep.
And it's got to be a step-by-step methodical process.
Right.
And when you nail these points, it's like the check engine light goes off on your feet, but you warm them up.
Yeah.
Now they're good. Check engine light went off on your calves. You went through your routine. Now they're good. Check engine light goes off.
Patients have to be careful what they say because we remember everything.
Yes. And, I was intrigued by that because as I went through all the body parts and then we went to the upper extremity, he definitely, and I think people are kind of have sticker shock because everything we have is Gucci,
right,
so to speak, right?
Right.
Our ice machines fully loaded are anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000, depending on the, with the cart and all the different attachments. The cryo machines, 15 to 17,000. Yeah. Every device we have, and those are the cheap ones.
And it's one thing to have exceptional sciences and healing services we offer, but it's another to give exceptional service. And I think that's what separates us from the others around is how we present the service. We recognize
it, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was frustration. And that's like anything in life, right? You want to make the gains. You're training for a fitness competition and it's hard. You're starving yourself. You can't go out. You can't drink. If you're going to hit this thing, like you have to be so strict and you want to quit. Well, guess what? When you're under care and you're getting better and you take 2 steps forward, 1 back, 3 steps forward, 4 back, you got to trust the process.
Yep.
Right.
100%.
And when all of a sudden they start stringing a couple days together,
they're like, okay, we could play.
And they see it. Now they're like, hey, I got this.
Yeah.
Right. And so circling all the way back, that was something today that when I was outlining my morning and even thinking about what I was going to do in the gym today, I was like, hey, you know what? I like to look at my whole day. God knows you get it at 5:30 in the morning and I have it down to bathroom breaks. Yes. And, but the funny thing about it is that, all kidding aside, being organized like that allows us to be in a situation that when people ask questions, we've already thought about them. And it's not about the high volume. I don't want that type of practice. I wouldn't want that type of business in anything I do. I'd rather say if I get solutions for complex problems, then I should be compensated significantly for doing so. If I can make chronic problems subside or go to a point where the person could tolerate them for the remainder of their life and exist, I want to be paid accordingly. And, and I think that's one thing that I'm super proud of is that we convey that because that's something we do in our entire process.
Yeah.
We understand, hey, is this a brand new injury? Is this old? Is this, a forever injury? You've had it since you're 20, you're 55 now. And because there's one thing to be a salesperson and be, over enthusiastic and not understanding how to communicate to that person. And I think when we communicate to those people, it's no different than setting the expectations in the day.
Yeah.
And that powerful start is how you explain to them, no different than my morning routines. And what becomes meaningful to them are the words that you string together to express the results, the process, and, what they may experience that could be, derail them or sidetrack them for a little bit.
Definitely.
And it's so important that we put those things into play.
And fueling off of that, again, that's our team's amazing at Velocity in general, but we can take this into life, right? We play out certain scenarios before even seeing patients. We can certainly play that into everyday life, playing scenarios in your head. If this goes this way, how do we handle it? If this goes the other way, how can we handle it? So I think that's a lesson for everybody, is that always play the scenario in your head before it happens, because if it's something different, we could easily audible.
100%. And, it was something that, I tell my kids a lot, or the athletes that I would work with. I'm like, hey, you're not shooting the ball well, but the scouting report is you just hit 33s in the month of April.
Right.
And, now you're moving into the Euro approach, championship mode, whatever. Pump fake, get to the rim, hit the open guy. I was watching LeBron play last night, and it was comical. 20 plus years later, one of the few players, maybe the only, to do it, averaged 25 points a game his entire career or more.
Yeah.
Right. And he's facilitating, smart like a fox.
Yeah.
Conserving energy. Last night, he's playing against one of the best athletes in the league, probably one of the best athletes on the planet, and going into a guy that's like a Charles Barkley like body.
Yeah.
That jumps out of the gym and probably weighs close to 300 pounds. And LeBron was surgical on how he took him apart.
Right.
He was moving the ball up the court, doing this, doing that. And you know what? When I was watching him, he really finished with a strong game, but he wasn't killing him or dominating him athletically. As obviously he's getting older. This guy's probably, 15 years younger than him. But the mind, it was like he knew what to expect. He was guarding the most athletic player on their team. That guy's guarding him, but it looked like checkers and chess. The guy would drop down, his hands would go down, LeBron would shoot, guy would come out, LeBron would go past him. And, the bottom line was, to my point is how important it is, because that's no different. No. Sports, consistent.
Yep.
Consistency wins championships, raises business from good to great, takes, average relationships into amazing relationships. And, we talk about relationships, let's talk about working relationships, right? Like, the last couple of weeks for us, we're going to look back on this when this hire comes and say, hey, you know what? We took some lumps.
Yeah.
We saw the importance of that third man or that third pair of hands, the importance of, I think we're putting gray hairs on Susanna right now, all kidding aside, she's young, but it's hard. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
And me, my stress point is always, hey, and this is something I heard earlier, talking about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, much different than the 2024 pros, never liked missing games.
Yep.
And this is well before he was a billionaire, but he was probably the focal point of world dominance in sports as a sports, superstar,
right?
That he wouldn't miss a game. Because if there's a father and son that paid huge money to come watch him, and maybe they didn't really have that money, and they scrounged and they got it together, and that might be the only time they're ever going to see Michael Jordan. He wanted them to see.
Made sure they wouldn't miss it. Yep.
And that's something that I feel like that starts with that purposeful morning, meaningful. Your messages, when you get to whatever it is, whatever your job is, I don't care whether you're a banker, an attorney, a doctor, physical medicine, a surgeon, is you have a job to show up and be amazing. And when you do that, the
people notice
the leverage you create where, somebody may say, hey doc, you look stressed. And then you'll walk them through the day.
Yeah.
And I go, that's before 8 a.m.
Right.
And they're like,
100%.
okay, you don't look stressed. You look like you're nailing it, know? So what else you got for me?
I mean, just going off of that, I think it's so important with being in with rituals and routines, right? You said Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods this weekend. Pretty sure he finished 20 over, last in the Masters. I saw a video of him warming up on the range Saturday, lathering himself up in icy hot, patches on, had the Venom on warming up. He was hurting, but he showed up. He showed out. He could have easily withdrew. He didn't because he knew who was watching. I think we can relate to sports with family or relationships, business, everyday life in general, because either way, you show up. There's always people watching you, whether you don't feel well on a certain day. Show up, give your best, and you can go to sleep saying, I did what I could. Might not have been a result, but we made it happen.
100%. And Today's podcast I wanted this one to be short and sweet. And that's what I tell our listeners. All of us, regardless of what we think our job is, whether it's important or not, there's somebody that thinks it is. And when you show up, and you're present and you are engaged and you're in that moment, I really, truly believe that those people around you gain energy and momentum and confidence because of what you bring. And I don't care whether it's, a school teacher leading the department, a head waitress, waiter, doctor, whatever the case, a coach, a player, a teammate, people in the pack draw energy.
Yep.
And it is so important for each of us to be a link in the chain to know, hey, our job is to hold on, left hand, right hand.
Without a doubt.
And when you do that, it's amazing. It's like the left pulls in the right and you're building this momentum and confidence. So today I loved it. Like I said, a purposeful start, being organized, getting into the day, that for me, I like getting up super early, especially there's a couple of days, like even tonight's gonna be early night. I love getting in anywhere 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, I hit the floor like, everybody's saying, oh God, he's up, because I hit the floor running.
Yep.
And, I'm thankful for that. And I think for the listeners, that's something that we want to make sure that we're like, hey, whatever your meaning, whatever your why is, okay, remind yourself that every day. And whatever those hard times, the difficult times, those tough choices you have to make, remind yourself that if you haven't made them yet, build up that confidence.
Show up.
And if you do that, you're going to be that much better off. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Today was a short and sweet podcast. It was all about, the importance of nailing your daily routine, meaningful reasons for doing stuff, and the whys. And again, when you're showing up, it's not just about you, right? Your team, if you're a service provider, the people receiving it, and being there and over delivering has so much more meaning than most times people realize. That, it's not what you do, it's the energy you put in it, the love, the care you put into it. And that goes so far. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you find value in this podcast today, please share it, comment on it. We love that. A review is always awesome. And thank you so much. See you soon.